Elliot Crane sat hunched on a park bench as golden leaves swirled around his polished shoes. The air carried a sharp autumn chill, but it was nothing compared to the cold inside him. Billionaire. Visionary. The headlines adored him. But today, none of that mattered. His mother, distant, complicated, but the only tether to who he once was, had passed away the night before. He hadn't made it in time. He hadn't said goodbye. And now, the world felt unreasonably quiet. He stared at the playground ahead, watching children laugh, oblivious to grief. He envied them. He used to be one of them before ambition replaced innocence, before wealth became armor. He pressed his palms into his eyes, trying to push the ache back inside. Then, a small voice interrupted the silence. "You look sad, mister. Wanna meet my mommy?" Startled, he looked up to find a little girl standing in front of him. Her coat was patched, shoes a size too big, but her face shone like morning sun. Her brown eyes were wide, filled with a kind of joy that didn't match the city around her. She wasn't afraid. She wasn't even curious about who he was. She just saw a sad man, and offered something simple. Elliot blinked, unsure how to respond. Before he could speak, she held out her mittened hand. "She makes soup that helps. It's magic." And something in him, something long dormant, stirred. He reached for her hand without a word. Elliot walked beside the little girl, her small hand tucked trustingly into his. The pavement cracked beneath their mismatched footsteps, his polished Italian loafers beside her scuffed sneakers. She led him through streets he hadn't walked in years, past corner stores with flickering signs and faded murals on brick walls. He didn't ask where they were going. For once, he wasn't in control, and strangely, that brought a strange kind of peace. "My name's Maya," she said cheerfully, skipping over a pothole. "Mommy says when people are sad, it's 'cause they forget they're still loved. Her soup fixes that." Elliot managed a small smile, the first in days. "Does your mom always invite strangers home?" "Nope," she said. "But you're not scary. Just sad." They turned onto a narrow side street where the city's shine faded into wear. Maya pointed to a weathered building above a laundromat. The windows were drafty, curtains thin. A busted railing leaned on the stoop. He hesitated. "Come on," Maya urged, tugging his hand. "Don't worry. Mommy's not scary either." He followed her up the stairs, each creak echoing louder than the last. The door opened before they could knock. A woman, tired but radiant, stood there in an apron, wiping her hands on a dish towel. Her eyes caught his, reading him in an instant. No recognition of his fame, no questions, just warmth. "You brought a guest?" she asked, surprised. Maya nodded proudly. "He's sad. He needs soup." Grace smiled gently. "Well then, come on in." The apartment was small, but it felt like stepping into another world. Warmth radiated not just from the old radiator in the corner, but from the soft hum of life within its walls. The scent of simmering broth and garlic filled the air, wrapping around Elliot like a blanket he didn't know he needed. Grace moved with practiced ease in the kitchen, ladling soup into mismatched bowls. The table was scratched, the chairs squeaked, but everything felt real, lived in, cared for. Maya chattered about her day, her school, and her favorite part of the soup, the little stars, not the noodles. Elliot listened, surprised to find himself smiling more than speaking. He hadn't eaten like this in years, something made with love, not delivered by a driver or catered in a boardroom. The soup wasn't fancy. But it was rich and comforting, and somehow tasted like childhood. They laughed, really laughed. When Maya tried to show him how to slurp the fun way, and Elliot, to her delight, tried it and nearly choked. Grace chuckled from the sink, and for a fleeting moment, Elliot felt like part of something, not observed, not demanded of, just welcomed. When dinner ended, Grace sat across from him, tea in hand. No pressure, no probing questions, just quiet company. And in that silence, Elliot realized how loud his life had become. Success had brought him noise, fame, and pressure, but not this. Not connection. Not warmth. Here, in a stranger's kitchen, something broken inside him quietly began to mend. The dishes were done. Maya had fallen asleep on the couch, cradling a threadbare teddy bear, her breathing soft and steady. The apartment had grown quiet, save for the occasional groan of old pipes and the city humming faintly outside the window. Elliot sat at the table, hands wrapped around a chipped mug of tea, eyes distant. Grace joined him, folding her hands gently on the table, sensing the weight he still carried. "I lost my mother yesterday," he said, voice barely above a whisper. "We weren't close. I kept putting off the visit. Always had a meeting, a crisis, a deal. She died before I could say goodbye." Grace said nothing at first. Just nodded, allowing the pain to unfold. Elliot went on, haltingly at first, about his childhood, the dreams that hardened into ambition, the walls he built to keep the world out. And how somewhere along the line, success had become his only language. "I have everything. Everything except peace. Except people." His voice cracked on that last word. He looked up at Grace, embarrassed by the emotion, by the tears threatening to fall. But she didn't judge. She simply reached across the table, her touch light but steady. "Maybe," she said softly, "what you needed all along wasn't more success, just someone to remind you you're still worth loving." The tears came then, quiet and long overdue. And for the first time in years, Elliot let them. Not for the cameras. Not behind closed doors. But here, in a stranger's kitchen, where it was safe to feel human again. 1 month later, the air in the park felt lighter, as if the world had turned a page. The leaves had mostly fallen, leaving bare trees to stretch into a crisp blue sky. Children still played on the swings, and laughter echoed through the chilly breeze. But this time, Elliot Crane wasn't on the bench alone. He stood near the playground, a soft smile on his face, watching Maya run ahead of him, her scarf trailing behind like a flag of joy. On his other side, Grace walked beside him, shoulders relaxed, face glowing with quiet pride. Her eyes held something new now, hope, not weariness. Elliot was different, too. Not just in the open coat or the way he knelt to tie Maya's shoe, but in the way he looked at the world. Something had shifted. He had started a foundation in Grace's name, the Maya Fund, supporting single mothers, underserved families, and inner-city programs that gave kids a place to feel seen. Grace ran it. Maya, unofficially, ran them both. As they passed the same bench where it all began, a man sat there, slumped, lost, staring into nothing. Maya paused, tilted her head, then gently approached him. "You look sad, mister. Want to meet my mommy?" Elliot smiled, heart full. That was her magic, her gift. And as the man lifted his head and Maya extended her hand, Elliot knew, the smallest gestures, offered freely, had the power to heal not just one heart, but many. Sometimes, it only takes one act of kindness to change the course of a life.